and welcome back to the Bliss Bean. Today we're talking about books. For a while now, I've been trying to keep up the habit of reading 15 minutes a day, which usually happens right before I go to bed. Do I accomplish this every day of the week? No. But do I accomplish this 4 days out of the week? No. Okay, maybe 4 is a reasonable estimate, but what I'm saying is even though I don't manage to read every single day, I still read more than I did before, which was 0 days out of the week. So this has allowed me to get through about 1 book a month, and in this video I wanted to kind of do a recap of the books I've read in 2019. Most of them I recommend, some I feel a little iffy about, so let's just get into it. Oh yeah, I don't like spending money on things, so I get most of my books from the library. So unfortunately, I won't have pretty physical copies to hold up and show you. I could edit that in, but it would look really, really bad. So the first book that I read this year was How to Be a Boss by Lilly Singh. This is one of those books I picked up just because I saw it on a shelf at the library. It had a pretty colorful cover, and I know Lilly Singh, so the way it's formatted is 50 short chapters that teach kind of one lesson each. It's definitely very motivational, just like how Lilly is as a person. I've only seen a few of her videos, but if you're familiar with her YouTube, the style is very similar. It's very energetic and conversational. Honestly, for me, it was a bit much. It felt like she was kind of trying too hard to come off as relatable, but if you watch her YouTube, you'll probably be used to that and won't mind. Overall, there was a lot of really good advice. I especially liked the advice that was about networking and communicating and interacting with people, because as an introvert, that's probably my weak spot. I've definitely gotten much better at it, but it's still hard for me to be engaged and energetic around people. Some of her favorite tips that she gave were, if you're working with a group of people or in a new environment or something, make sure to shake everyone's hand and just enthusiastically and genuinely introduce yourself. Something that not a lot of people do these days, and it can really set you apart and just make people remember you. Another tip that I really liked was to avoid the classic conversational fallbacks like, "Hi, how are you? I'm great. How about you? Great. Because that really gets you nowhere. It doesn't express your personality in any way. It doesn't help you connect with people on a deeper level. If someone asks you something like, "How are you?" actually be honest. If you're not having a great day, you don't have to be all negative and pessimistic about it, but you can just be honestly, I'm kind of tired. I just got back from a trip yesterday, or I'm really excited to work on this project with you. Overall, the tone of the book was honestly a little too, almost too motivational and focusing on the hustle. I think it was just when I read it in a time of my life when I kind of probably needed to take my foot off the gas pedal a little bit and push myself less. So only you know what you need. If you are at a point in your life where you do need motivation and a good kick in the rear end, then this book is perfect for you, and I definitely recommend it. Okay, this next one is the one I felt most conflicted about. The 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson. Now, I knew nothing about this book when I picked it up at the library, so first off, this was definitely the hardest book that I read all year. There were pages where I would read the entire page and not gain anything from it. I'd have to go back and reread it because I just got so lost in all the philosophy and biology and just everything he weaves together to prove his points. It's very intricate and very deep. I did enjoy the beginning of the book where he talked about stuff like not comparing yourself to others, knowing what you want out of relationships and knowing how to ask for what you need, how to listen better in conversations, just a lot of solid stuff that's genuinely, I think, important. But towards the end of the book, I started to get a little confused. Honestly, I low-key felt too stupid to fully understand this book, so I was kind of what am I even reading? But there are things that definitely put me off, especially his views on women's role in society and traditional gender roles. So while planning this video, I did some more research on who this Jordan B. Peterson guy is, and it was interesting. The Vox article that I read about him, and I'll link to it in the description, called him the obscure Canadian psychologist who became a right-wing celebrity. I'm really glad I picked up the book without knowing anything about him, because otherwise, honestly, I would not have read it. It turns out that he has publicly said some pretty incredibly controversial things, not even focused on one issue, just so many different topics that he has said things about that I disagree with. But I think it is good to expose yourself to other perspectives, so I'm glad I had the experience of reading this book. If you're unsure of whether you want to read it, I would definitely recommend reading Amazon reviews. People on there are very, fair in how they review the book. So overall, I think it's a Pretty good read, but definitely take it with a grain of salt. Next book was The Wisdom of the Enneagram by Don Richard Riso. This book is all about a form of personality typing called the Enneagram. I love nerding out about personality testing and everything related to that, so I was absolutely fascinated by this book. I actually really like it as compared to the Myers-Briggs. I have enjoyed the Myers-Briggs test. I think it's fun to take. I always get ISFJ every single time, but I feel like where the Myers-Briggs focuses on identifying personality types and assigning one to each person to describe what they're like, the Enneagram takes a different stance on personality and views it as a way to achieve self-improvement. So they make a clear distinction between what is personality and what is essence. Using the words from the book, personality is what compensates for our gaps in development, whereas essence is our true self. The introduction kind of lays out the groundwork explaining what the Enneagram is. The bulk of the book is the second section where it splits up each of the 9 types and goes way in depth into each one of them. Beyond just the 9 types, there are thinking, feeling, and instinctual triads, harmonic groups, assertive, withdrawn, and compliant social styles. There's just so many intricacies. The book also gives you a lot of great journaling prompts that are specific for your personality type. Basically, just if you like learning about personality or if you want to learn a little bit more about yourself, you should definitely check out this book. The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon was the first fiction book that I read this year. I'm not going to count the stuff I read in AP Lit like Hamlet and Heart of Darkness and Candide, but basically I read The Sun is Also a Star because I saw the trailer for the movie, and the movie looked amazing, so I wanted to see what the book was like before I saw it. I will tell you, as always, the book was much better than the movie. The movie did have really good cinematography and a great soundtrack, but the storyline, they really changed the book a lot, and they made it a lot more idealistic than the book was. I think the book did a good job at being realistic about the fact that not all people are good people, and not all families have good relationships. So, being a little cynical myself, I already found the idea of the book a little hard to believe, where 2 people just fall in love in 24 hours and they're convinced they're meant to be together, but the movie was just even a harder pill to swallow. Overall, it's a cute love story. The ending is a bit annoying, but I can't give away much more than that. If you like romance books or like the YA genre in general, you'll probably like this book. Next was The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. I wanted to read this book for so long because so many people recommended it. It's kind of like How to Be a Boss in that it is very motivational. It doesn't allow you to make any excuses. I think it's aimed mainly at creative people, so people who are either in a creative profession or have some sort of creative hobby, but I think anyone can find the advice in this book useful in some way. The whole book centers on the concept of resistance, which is basically a presence that is there to try and keep you from achieving the things you want to achieve. Like most books, there were parts I liked and parts that I didn't. It's divided into 3 parts, and a lot of the reviews on Amazon said that it kind of went off the rails in the 3rd part, which I definitely agree with. It started getting all metaphysical and saying things like, if you don't follow your creative calling, then you shame the angels who watch over you, and you spite the Almighty who created you, and only you with your unique gift for the sole purpose of nudging the human race 1 millimeter farther along its path back to God. I don't know, as someone who's not religious, I found that a little interesting. And even if you are religious, I feel like it might be kind of a weird experience to be reading a book about art and creativity and just seeing those references all of a sudden. But the worst part of the book, and probably the most often criticized, is this passage where he says, attention deficit disorder, seasonable affect disorder, social anxiety disorder, these aren't diseases, they're marketing ploys. Doctors didn't discover them, copywriters did. If tomorrow morning, by some stroke of magic, every dazed and benighted soul woke up with the power to take the first step towards pursuing his or her dreams, domestic abuse would become extinct, as would addiction, obesity, migraine, headaches, road rage, and dandruff. Dandruff? What? Okay, literally this part makes no sense, and it is pretty offensive and ignorant to say that these things are caused by people's procrastination. Basically, I definitely do recommend the first 2 parts of this book. Use it to inspire you, to motivate you, but as with any book, just kind of be wary and critical about what you're reading. Next up, A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. This was another fiction book, and this one I actually did read for AP Lit. It was for my final project where we got to choose a book, and I'm gonna be honest, I read almost all of it and wrote my final essay in 1 day. I'm actually glad I ended up doing it that way though, because reading the book in such a short period of time reminded me of why I loved reading so much when I was little. I finished that book and honestly, I felt like I was in another world for the rest of the day. I was kind of in a daze, and I almost felt like the characters were real. Basically, the plot of the story is that this Canadian novelist, while walking along the beach, discovers a bag that has a diary inside it, and the diary was written by a young Japanese girl a couple years back, and she's basically telling the story of her great-grandmother's life, but also her life at the same time, because she actually plans on committing suicide very soon, and kind of the last project that she wants to work on is making sure that she can document the life of her great-grandma, who she admires a lot. The book itself is beautifully written. It interweaves different storylines very smoothly, so like there's totally different time periods and locations and people all going on at the same time, but it just somehow makes a ton of sense when it's all put together. It's also one of those books where you're not constantly waiting for something to happen or for the plot to be resolved. You're kind of just content with observing the characters go about their lives, and I think that was one of the reasons why when I finished the book I still felt like I was lingering in their world, because the author just does a fantastic job of making you feel like you're really there with the characters. The last book, the one that I'm reading right now, is not really even a book, and I actually do have a copy of this one, so let me just bring it out for you. 52 Lists for Togetherness by Moorea Seal. Okay, first of all, this book is beautiful. Look at this. Look at this. Wow. I'm a sucker for a book that's well designed. But besides the design, this book is actually really, really awesome. The subheading reads, Journaling Inspiration to Deepen Connections with Your Loved Ones. And I think it really does do that. Some of the examples of the lists are like, list the friends, family, coworkers, mentors, and others who come to mind when you hear the word community. List the things about your loved ones that you would miss if you didn't see each other for a long time. List what your dream vacation with one or a few of your best friends would look like. And then each of these lists has some sort of an action step associated with it. So it's not really a reading book, it's more of an activity book. Yeah, super cute book. Highly recommend. So that's all my books for 2019. I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe found some recommendations that you're interested in. Let me know which of these books you're thinking about reading, and I will see you next time. Bye!